business practices appears to be picking up steam after much resistance. Reporters from Forbes magazine were ordered to testify before a new grand jury on Thursday, giving details about a cover story that published on Donald Trump in 2015 and his apparent fixation with the magazine's estimate of his net worth. The testimony arrives just 2 weeks before Manhattan DA Cy Vance is set to leave office, December 31st to be exact, on what could be a historic note by possibly bringing charges against a former U.S. president. With me now, David Cay Johnston, tax expert, founder of DCReport.org, and author of The Big Cheat. David, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us on this. And you are the quintessential guest for a conversation like this one, because with that, I want to read for you some of which was offered up during this Forbes testimony. That Trump told me that I look better if I'm worth $10 billion than if I'm worth $4 billion, as reported in the article. More specifically, that Trump told me that a higher net worth number was, quote unquote, good for financing. Also, that as reported, Trump said that during the early 1990s, Forbes' estimate were actually high, as Trump put it, and he deserved to be off the list. What could this mean, David, for Cy Vance's case?
Well, I anticipate they're going to bring a racketeering charge against Trump, New York State racketeering charge. And it's one thing to assert to local property tax officials or a banker you're trying to get a loan from that your worth is, let's say, $100 million. But if you claim it's $1 billion, that's fraud. Valuations matter. And in Trump's case, we know that he has, for example, argued that his golf course in Westchester County, New York, is worth $1.4 million. But on his presidential form, he says $50 million. And in interviews, he says more than $100 million. Well, those numbers aren't reconcilable. And so what they're doing is showing that Trump knowingly, deliberately, with malice aforethought and intent to deceive, was manipulating the system. And when you take out a mortgage loan in particular, you usually sign under penalty of perjury.
So here's the thing, though. Let me play devil's advocate here for a moment, because it's one thing, right, to have these conversations with Forbes magazine. We know, obviously, the former president was already a public figure. He was incredibly astute in and aware of his net worth, always talking about it, not only in instances like this, but on late night television, for instance. Why can't the former president say, this was my accountant, this was Alan Weisselberg's deal, he was the one that was filing the papers, he was the one that was applying for these loans, he was the one that was inflating my net worth or deflating my net worth, considering what you're talking about? Why not that?
Well, first of all, at the end of the day, when you sign a document like your tax return, you're responsible for it, even if it was prepared by somebody else. And Donald Trump, as I broke the story more than 5 years ago, once actually forged his own tax return. He didn't file the one his accountant and tax lawyer prepared for him. He substituted a different one, and he was found to have committed civil tax fraud in 2 different trials involving that tax return. Now, certainly Trump's team, when he's indicted, and I'm certain he will be indicted, is going to try and lay the blame on everybody else. And so what the prosecutors want to show is that if Alan Weisselberg phonied up documents, it was at the direction of Donald Trump, which is, by the way, exactly what was charged and confessed to in the Michael Cohen case, that he acted at the direction of Donald Trump.
So you're certain he's going to be indicted? Then what?
Oh, yeah. They would not have done all of this and know how much they know, and many things that I know about, if they weren't going to do this. Mark Pomerantz, the special prosecutor, shut down his very lucrative law practice to work for government pay. Yeah, they will indict him. Exactly when, I don't know. I don't expect it'll be on a straight tax charge. I think there'll be a tax charge, but the key charge will be racketeering.
You think, considering knowing who Cy Vance is, how he's prosecuted, how he's been investigating the Trump Organization for the better part of 2 years, it'll happen before his term ends, which is December 31st. And if so, if the indictment comes down, whether or not it's in the next 2 weeks or in the new year, what happens then?
Well, how quickly it's going to come is a matter of how quickly they can go through the 5 million pages of documents they got after Trump lost a second time before the Supreme Court. They were expecting about 1 million documents. They got 5 times that many. They have to look at them all. Once he's indicted, Trump will have to surrender himself to be booked. I'm sure he'll be released on his own recognizance. And then we will see a campaign of trying to delay trial, to do everything he can. And you will see Donald say, this is corrupt. The prosecutors are corrupt. The police are corrupt. The auditors are corrupt, because that's what Roy Cohn taught him when he was a young man. Accuse law enforcement and then delay, delay, delay.
David Cay Johnston, I knew you were the perfect guest for this conversation. Thank you. Happy holidays. Coming up, everybody, the upcoming holidays are starting.